We're gonna do it to help doggies.
Do it to feel better about ourselves. And also,
If they don't solve, they lose teeth. Puts them in a double bind.
If you win T, you take a full top party and solve T, you lose 2 legs of the table.
They have a pretty significance.
My hand hurts really badly.
Must be rough and close.
My life is so hard, everyone. Feel bad
it's a
for
cross.
me.
It's certainly a cross.
What?
I said it's a cross.
Oh, yes. Very rough. Okay, I'm ready whenever you are.
Tight. Everyone cool? Resolution analysis. The resolution the United States Government should tax fuel producing high levels of CO2 CO2 gases to reduce global climate change. First attention to give me the background. The one is going to be their alternative strategies in order to isolate, in order to allocate revenue from the taxing of carbon dioxide. But this is from a policy dialogue from AB 32, which is going on right now in the status quo. The second of this is going to be there's absolutely no moral means for allocating money right now, which means it's only a question of how to optimally spend the revenue, which there are dozens of possible options. 3 is going to be the facts right now. The right are going to be that right now there is absolutely no precedent for the allocation of revenue from atmospheric emission taxes, which means there is completely unprecedented. The plan text. The U.S. federal government should phase in a revenue-neutral $50 per ton of carbon dioxide tax on electricity producers over 4 years. The United States federal government should allocate the revenue from the carbon tax to clean up environmental pollution found at Superfund sites.
At what fund?
Superfund.
How is it? Oh.
Next is going to be the salt. So the one is going to be the taxes. One of the taxes decreasing the possibility amount of emissions. Your approves the second argument is also been Clean Air Act has been in existence since the 1970s. It's also been regulation of CO2. But the third argument is going to be also decreases the possible amount of emissions from 2005 to 2011. Europe's own system has decreased about their share of emissions from the EU 15 down by 9%. But also electricity utility is one of the largest sources of this particular coal. But furthermore, utility in 2002, the study found that from Cambridge University did not negatively affect the European economy in any shape or form, which is simply just a lie. Advantage 1, First Peoples. 8 points so what environmental pollution is definitely destroying First Peoples right now. The one under this is going to be the pollution is incredibly high in the status quo. 17 reservations have been isolated by world watches. It maps the threat of extinction, but also of annihilation. Also, next argument is, for instance, example is Portland Harbor, which basically the complete destruction would do the dumping of heavy metals and cyanide and hydrocarbons in that area. The next argument is also destroyed the salmon that passes that area, particularly in the northeast, which individuals eat via bioaccumulation, so it becomes incredibly poisonous. The 2 is also going to be the absolutely destroyed traditions. For instance, in Portland Harbor, there's Kelly Point, from which individuals engage in traditional canoe setting off, which is impossible now to do in a world where massive pollution destroying the harbor. The 3 is also going to be that right now there's a massive amount of illegal dumping that takes place in the status quo. For instance, for Torres Reservation is the most polluted place in the United States, according to Clancy Tanley, the EPA tribal program manager, says that it is unprecedented. This might be one of the most polluted places in the world. The V is going to be linked. The funds actually are now allocated to clean this cleanup. It's absolutely necessary for a couple of reasons. The first is going to be immensely costly. According to the Government Accountability Office, takes $2 billion. The next is also going to be absolutely critical to empowering these individuals to clean up the pollution around them. But the C is going to be the impact. The 1 is going to be health risk. The A and this is going to be the mass amount of death occurring not only through air pollution, but also ground pollution by destroying the food web, and also by the spreading of the air pollution, particularly from coal, which kills these individuals. The 2s are going to, this is going to be the quality of life. We tell you that in a world of the massive bioaccumulation of poison means that individuals are murdered before they can even see the light of day. For instance, exactly what causes a massive amount of increase of seizures, destruction of umbilical cords, sudden infant death, and also Down syndrome in some individuals. But the second impact is going to be that pollution decreases sovereignty. What else companies do, private companies do, is roll in and monthly build these people for millions and millions of dollars, means commodification of not only their land but also their lives. But the third and last thing is going to be the genocide. It's the worst impact because one, that we tell you this is a systemic form of genocide against these individuals. It is the worst form of mass communal death because one, it is not only the death of these people, which is absolutely irreversible, and also the ultimate removal of volition and thus human identity, but or rather. Yeah, I'll say that. Next, but rather, it's the worst form of mass communal death, but also destroys remembrance of these people ever existing. What happens is the world of destruction ever exists means that no individual identity for these often the time. So these people, for instance, the Polish community during the Shoah, 80% of them wiped out, which means whole communities, entire villages and family lines are never remembered, which means that individuals might as well never exist, which means that wipes out the entirety of remembrance, which means that there is no individual identity nor agency for these people, which is probably contributing to humanization. But in addition, we tell you this inevitably leads to the logic of extinction. There are always other groups that therefore must exist for the groups in power to justify their genocide against them, which means in a world where no one can be where no one can be powerful enough, it means inevitably the more and more groups are manufactured by those in power, which means inevitably leads to the logic of extinction. Second advantage is going to be sustainability. 8 points in the United States is actually lacking in renewable markets right now. First, this is because the natural gas boom is completely traded off the renewables. One, it is 1/7 the cost of most renewables, but also the 35% increase in use of natural gas in the status quo. 2 is going to be also, we see that there's an issue of someone going to be able to control access to the international markets. Only question of who. For China's increasing status, as I said, 50% of all solar panels are produced there, but the state's constant drive for security means that someone is going to try to get access to it. The 3 are going to be that there's no incentive in a world without world of tax credit. For instance, 2000, the mass amount of tax credits offered. It was thought in 2010 production actually went down, but the next argument, most of these legislations have access to sunset clause, which means you can never solve. But the fourth argument is going to be it's absolutely key in order imports also don't solve. For instance, Germany and China produce most of these, but in fact, mass amount of trade disputes means that there's always a supply chain is in question. The B is going to be the link, the solvency. The first argument is going to be taxes increases the cost, which increases the tax, the pivot. For instance, you have cross-border European solvency here. The 2 argument is also going to be the absolute amount of stable demand. Now, the CEO of Thermal Electric says that that is what's needed to solve. Further, the next argument is also going to be the increased cost of rise of other energies means that renewables are now most cost efficient. The third argument is going to be United States. So keeping on, we have an immensely diverse market of also we have the highest emissions, also use 25% of the world's energy, which means without solving for them, you cannot solve. The C is going to be the impact of increased use of fossil fuels means not only economic collapse but also war. First argument is going to be the disorderly shortage of fossil fuels. The IAEA system since 1990, everyone's increased their use of fossil fuels by 150%. It's absolutely critical because, for instance, countries like China need these access to these, which means in a world which you maintain an 8% growth rate, which they themselves say with collapse and instability. The second argument is going to be the massive amount of flashpoints for a competition over these resources. For instance, we will isolate 3. The first is going to be the Arctic, which has 22% of all of the undiscovered fossil fuels in the entire world. Also, the Spratlys in the Middle East. Literally, the history of the Middle East proves this in a world where this is only a few possible places can be had, and everyone needs it. It inevitably leads to wars. Exactly why wars devastated the people of the Middle East. The third argument is also going to lead to a massive amount of destabilization. We tell you it would lead to an international war because, one, we tell the civil unrest and otherization of these people in a world of increased poverty means that inevitably we have to demonize the other in order to get access to our resources, which means what occurs in the world now is they demand the most extreme measures taken, which means that it's many individuals believe it is therefore try or die, which means it not only increases the possibility of a man no longer checking back, but also increases the possibility of miscalculation or one irrational actor who has access to their own nuclear weapon. For instance, Russian strategic doctrine says that individual commanders have an immense amount of leeway with this, which means as long as one nuclear missile is in the air, then it may also have gone out the window. Between 4 that lead to extinction. It only takes a 15,000 kiloton, 1,500 kiloton yield to result in extinction, completely blocking out the sun. According to UCLA's environmental research, however, even a WI-88 has 500 kiloton yield, which means it'll only take a few of these American and Russian weapons to go up. But next turn is also going to be therefore we can not only wipe out via photosynthesis, but also wipe out by decreasing the total the degrees by from 20 to 30 Celsius, which leads to a massive agricultural collapse because no sunlight, which means everyone does not eat, which means individuals who are not killed by the radiation blast will be killed by cancer, killed by absolute starvation, and then no photosynthesis means we all die.
Who are First Peoples?
People who were people in descendants of those who were living on the land before Europeans and other folks got here.
Okay. I do not see where you're getting these internal links on Advantage too. You want to explain that one?
Which ones do you not understand?
I mean, I just don't see how you're getting to the internal link by extinction.
Because fossil fuels are bad and lead to extinction, so renewables aren't good.
Yeah, a reliance on fossil fuels causes wars over those fuels, which will escalate because they are existential in nature.
The order is 1, 2, 3, 4 case. 1, 2, 3, 4 case.
I'm getting on my backpack to get flow paper. I'm not pulling out anything that has anything written on it.
Oh, my just wants to paper.
Oh, yeah. Great. Let me do that. 4 cases? 4.
Everybody ready?
Sit up for this one.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're a little bit long.
Shower ball.
Alright, everyone ready?
Free plan to speak over discussing justifications, but it only comes before political questions because theory underpins it from practice. We use that representations of the ultimate form of political power. Links first argument is the way to see comparative regulations, new green trust, new green twist on neoliberalism, relies on production of space, and no citizens treated the link biopower of management of life because it makes an ideal relationship to people in the personal environment, which normalizes the affectional rules of the one I see, which prescribes an ideal ethical citizenship that touts values of stewardship and alternative perspective on environmental harmony and exclusion, creates subjugation to the level of the individual and their call for greed, and for a green economy runs the declaration of the state of emergency that creates an ethic of collective action where the government uses crisis-based mentality to hate threats at the level of population justifies infinite control and necessitation of coercion for people who don't fit into the blueprint that the government is back and there. Efforts for great group politics to our lip service ambassador is unaffectional for the foundational ethical environment which creates media span that eventually causes attention to media taxes. First, that we are likely to think business creates value populations and when they're not immediately destroyed, their experiences are the worst kind of rights for because their use is tools by the this means and lies however being individuals are reduced bodies to be exploited. Humanity is literally shed to be able to become part of the machine. This devalues life and changes the totality of humanity and makes infinite violence possible, which justifies the destruction of entire population. Second is extinction, more separation of civilization, which means the cyber individual focus creates an attack, makes it inevitable. This is an example of things like nuclear weapons, which are sophisticated killing machines capable of putting an entire population to that nexus, and this inevitably creates extinction because the conception of true peace is destroyed for any understanding what peace means without more between episodes. Peace between more justified than continual dominant murder, which is inherently violence, creates justified. Justification for genocide is because the sovereign power's exclusion goes beyond the point of the relationship between life and death. You devalue certain forms of life and declare what is good, or that life which justifies all violence and threats to those who are threats to the good life. The alternative, rejected by political discourse of the one I see, rejected by political discourse of the one I see. So it's the first argument the universal intellectual only measures the biopower specific intellectual reason resistance because of the importance of which power is considered in modern society. Individual action is key because it's all social norms too. Through daily acceptance of things that there's no center of power, which means that it can be constructed from any point in institutional focus because it obscures power relationships by focusing on large systems of domination because our unconditional faith in institutions were incapable of criticizing them next. You need this first argument of Morgan Stanley business confidence and extras right there to protect them. We're in the orientation of the cap, expansion plans of innovation and the number of business standards because of governmental policies are being respected 25% since December and 17% since January 4. Statistics MSPSE is most inclusive study of all factors including general sentiment, financing cap, and hiring and expectation standards. And the second argument is that small business optimism index grew to 88.9% in January, and small businesses are assuming the status quo jobless rate has decreased significantly since federal work in manufacturing has increased by 10%, which is the highest point since May. This indicates that consumer confidence is high in status quo links. First, the EU level is only demanded about $40 per metric ton of capital, which makes the plan look like this following the international model. Additionally, you have on and on about how this is unprecedented action, which means the plan is not expected Obama signal long legislative processes to determine how we would deal with climate change. Also, the plan is perceived as unilateral Obama action, which kills the transition from the business sector and in contribution for or trust for the business sector. Looks like retribution, which means that they're incapable. Looks like retribution on the confirmation process. Second, next argument is businesses perceive cost of litigation and technological changes as a reason to stop investment. The National Association of Manufacturers said 20% more expensive for manufacturers in the U.S. with regulations cost of businesses. You wait and see what happens, and see what the results of the regulations will be before investment. The internal system has got a lack of investment in the short term. Results in manufacturing, decline in employment, consumer confidence decline. You don't invest in new products or hire for individuals for new products in the world where you do not invest consumer confidence is internally the economy accounts for 70% of U.S. economic actions. The impacts are the economy would result the economy would decline into development recession. This goes global because the U.S. dollar is pinned to 40 other currencies and international civil investment is internal in terms of aid makes it impossible for us to fund any sort of cleanup. First people lands also makes it impossible for us to develop free technology charts. And the industry also to focus on the environment and worldwide economic decline. Also economic ties are necessary to be able to prevent war through economic trade ties. Next. The United States federal government should set up an annual fund to clean up environmental pollution on Superfund sites. Again, the USFG should set up an annual fund to clean up environmental pollution on Superfund sites. This business confidence is a net benefit because we don't tax businesses. Next. The United States federal government should convene a collaborative public policy process with all stakeholders vested in a revenue neutral $50 per carbon dioxide tax per ton carbon dioxide tax on electricity production over 4 years. The USFG should convene a collaborative public policy process with all vested stakeholders to allocate the revenue for the carbon tax to clean up the environmental pollution, to clean up an environmental pollution fund at the Superfund sites. Again, collaborative public policy process with all vested stakeholders in doing the plan. Normal means of the campaign means that the government hires a neutral mediator firm and uses the neutral mediator hired by a federal agency. The mediator firms are responsible for determining who is relevant stakeholders and the procedural framework for governing negotiations with my representative the one you see because we do the same environmental regulation as you, which means that either the campaign or the affirmative is necessary. Which means that it's switched with the app or the campaign also will solve you best. We have some of the surplus, which means that we negotiate enforcement mechanisms and which indicates that they're more durable. There is more backlash created there's less backlash created when all the vested parties are incorporated. Also, they create new opportunities for partnerships between government and civil society and partnerships. And the government members have to get knowledge then. I don't want that. And we increase enforcement because we have paramount state actors monitor enforcement of the affirmative can't solve issues that do not set from legal rights, but knowing activist actions involved in 90% of environmental regulations are violated because they're ignored and be avoided to the base because gambling was similar to the CBD multiple times while I was highlighted clever partner processes. Next. Case. First argument of the tampering CO2 measures are inevitable and as the system get around this means there's no money to clean up bonds. Clean up bans also you get clean up in places with political voices only, which means that you have to fight it to even get the clean up on first people's lands. Also no regulation across state lines indicate no durable solvency and the resolution. Reservations are still under clean air power, which means inevitably the state will justify dumping on their lands. Next argument on advantage. First argument is that international technology and cooperation and science diplomacy are capable of solving and things like H1B are also solving impact to the status quo. Also green technology and development is inevitable. This solves internally to our advantage because Germany, Japan, and the Netherlands are all developing green technology. They're much further ahead of us and they have a greater stake in market opportunity case. They're capable of solving internally through graph and oil will last until the status quo solves Australia, Canada, Alaska, Nigeria, and Venezuela, and U.S. reserves are capable of compensating for this. And alpha particles are the only particles that are released. Nuclear weapons means that you're incapable of accessing a radiation scenario. No cost for extinction. And we also fuel taxes fail to affect market change. The taxes are simply passed on to consumers again. There would be leaving production and test energy consumption is no lasting good. Energy operates almost entirely on monopoly, so there is no incentive to change production. It's gut solvency for Advantage 20. And energy would also be difficult to adapt to access on economic conditions. Taxes are responsive to economic change, which means maintaining a constant incentive to reduce consumption cannot be established and again determine social cost of carbon to consumers. And single nation consumption causes dirty development, creates an international race at the bottom, which when the U.S. decreases consumption, market prices that fails. Also, this is significantly worse because the international race at the bottom. Because although you decrease when you decrease use domestically, you decrease price internationally means that use happens in place with worse environmental regulations.
Time starts.
What's this last argument about how if we increase the prices domestically, it'll just decrease internationally?
Okay, so since you aren't changing the amount of fuels that exist, when you decrease the price, or when you increase the price domestically, if your advantage is right, you create a disincentive to use fossil fuels, then you would decrease the price internationally because there's more product available. That's basic supply and demand, which means that it gets used in places where they have worse environmental regulations because it's more accessible.
Where would it go more? Like where would
Fossil
be
fuels,
where
likely
would
China,
the unique
India.
increase in use of oil?
Pardon?
If everyone's using oil right now to a huge extent, where would be the unique increase in use of oil?
People who aren't developing entirely within their status quo, now this is an ability for them to increase their industries because they can afford to now, so industries are going to develop in places where they didn't exist before. It creates a possibility.
Excellent.
Alright. The order is going to be the Superfund counterplan, the negotiations with businesses counterplan, the criticism, then the econ disad, then the case.
Okay, counterplan 2, the funding counterplan.
Yeah, funding counterplan, negotiations counterplan, neolib, disad, and then case order. I flowed all of their If they made Advantage 1 answers, which I assume they did, I float them on the background self-solvency sheet. So that's where.
That's where I have them too.
Cool. Alright. Okay?
Yeah.
Great.
First on the counterplan, permanent plan on the counterplan. The first of all, the solvency creates a fund and cleans up everything better than the affirmative. Also, the second is going to get also a swamp and disadvantage because it would look at popular problems as well and make people look at popular business because it looks like we're investing environmental regulation. Also links to disadvantage benefit. Also, the next is going to be on the number 3 is going to be also doesn't solve Advantage 1 2 because you don't create a price for carbon or any incentive to go to renewable energy. Means you don't solve Advantage 2 conditional level disadvantage against the counterplan. Next is negotiation counterplan number 1 is going to be implementation of both the implementation of both the ACE points going to be the first of all back in adopting regulations now, and also creates a collaborative and negotiating process of what those regulations might be in the future. So also 100% of the benefit of the counterplan 2 is going to be also installed because these businesses are going to act in their own interest in make a right the regulations to benefit them. Also prevent any ability to adopt the plan as written. They would probably set a lower carbon price and phase it in over something like 20 years, like the Clean Air Act, so like the Clean Air Act, which was done with consultation with businesses status period to prove your arguments, things get washed out. Next is going to be time frame. They would take a really long time for these companies to agree on what a acceptable solution would be. For example, the coal lobby definitely has different interests in the solar power lobby, which means that there's no way for them to be able to come to an agreement with status quo. No agreement means you solve 0% of the affirmative. Both the advantages are just has to be affirmative. Second, yeah, also you also every day you don't solve is a day that the first people continue to be genocided against because via the Superfund waste sites means that there's no way for you to solve Advantage 2. Also imminent extinction level disadvantage against the counterplan. Also the net benefits are also no net benefit of the counterplan will be answering on this as well. Doesn't include necessary business whatever. Next is going to be turn. Also it's bad. Turn. Also looks like it's engaged. Well, actually I don't need that argument. Next is going to be it's impossible to solve because it's impossible to get all relevant stakeholders. Arguments going to be digital and people who hold stock in the economy in the companies, which are billions of people across the globe, but also they're the people who are adopting different sections of the supply chain as well. These are with the stakeholders, somebody who has an interest in the business, like people like coal suppliers to coal miners, means that there's a vast possibility that none of these plans get adopted. Also, no empirical example of when this has ever occurred in emissions carbon emissions. Example means there's 0 chance of solvency, only risk the F solves, and we have 2 independent disadvantages against the solve none of the app. Go to the go to the criticism now. First on the criticism, all arguments are representational. You evaluate the impacts of the these are all justifications of our methodology. The second is going to be turn liberalism. We refrain the question of emissions as our responsibility for to justify historical harm. This is our unique starting with our first people's advantage, which means that we are inherently questioning the neoliberalism. The 8 points of the neoliberalism means that people have market value. People's only value comes from what their contributions to the market are. These points can be this is implicit that first people's don't adopt this market, don't contribute to this market, and the plan to serve all that by having an ethical obligation to them. We are able to resolve this impact by piping funds that direction 2. So we turn neoliberalism, we decrease neoliberalism because we decrease access to market. The neoliberalism posits that the markets are God, and what our highest priority should be to preserve the question. We increase taxes, which increase the amount of cost it takes to engage in these markets, which means we decrease the total amount of neoliberalism. Also, the next would be turn taxation. We also reject the we reject private actor. Next would be turn. We criticize neoliberalism because we don't say the markets provide perfect solutions. Specifically, they externalize the cost of production to and the output of poisonous gases to people across the world, which means that it is impossible to be able to, which means that we have reconceptualize that by taxing these emissions and internalizing those costs means we are criticism of the market. But next, the permutation, do the plan and reject neoliberalism. Also, the 8 points going to be solution permutation includes all the plan text, part of the counter plan text. These points going to be constant criticism of action. It's impossible to engage and prevent suffering, which we become morally complicit for a world where you reject any action on the grounds that modifies neoliberalism. Also, the 6 points going to be that we don't have to have the same epistemologies in order to be able to act. Just Butler's argument, different things can agree us to change, but these points going to be that also the alternative pits potential allies against each other. Your authors would probably like our plan that regulates the they would increase the regulations on the neoliberal market. The status quo means that it's impossible to be able to engage in a pragmatic implementation of your alternative, which means that your impacts are absolutely inevitable. The next argument is going to be a double bind. The either alternative is either strong enough to overcome Lincoln's permutation, or it's now impossible to solve the entrenched mindset of neoliberalism and the reaffirmation of neoliberalism that exists in status quo. But also, it's going to be contradictions to good argument failures. If we have to expose that through power and also reveal truth through fiction. The permutation of the simulated death of 1AC, where it's possible to imagine new possibilities and incorporated rejection of neoliberalism into your ontology. Also, answers back all the criticism. We're winning arguments both why we solve neoliberalism and why the permutation would be able to do that better. Econ dissent. Actually, Joe, is there more second one in here?
Nothing we're showing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a more implicit thing probably leads to things like genocide, which is the internally to all the things we're talking about right now.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the moral complicit equals genocide, which is
additionally, our moral complicity arguments will probably make all the impacts of the case and the criticism inevitable in a world that you don't act, and instead just think about neoliberalism means that all these impacts are inevitable. Okay. Which on this side? First, not unique state, the Union would already trigger this back. Obama said that SOT regulations had to occur, but second is going to be the non-unique. The EPA also announced in December that other 2015 regulations also would indicate that emissions regulations would be coming. The C points, next, going to be linked to it. The plan could trades off of cap and trade plans. The A points going to be cap and trades coming out. Obama said in the State of the Union we had to have a similar bill to McCain-Lieberman, which was a cap and trade bill. He called those out specifically, which means cap and trades on top of the dock. These points going to be cap and trades worse for businesses because it costs an inefficient cap. The cap that's set on carbon emissions is dependent upon what government economic planners say that is best for the economy, which means absolutely unpredictable. Also, probably doesn't determine when what kind of economic growth is going to balance these points. Going to be also the plan trades off the cap and trade. There's no political will to be able to pass cap and trade in the world of the plan because there first of all we weren't able to pass climate change legislation via Waxman Markey freeze that failed, but the public can only sustain one massive change through energy production. Next going to be linked to the plan costs cheap energy because it increases the amount of economies of scale and decrease energy costs for everyone who uses non-traditional energy sources. Also creates an instant market which solves for consumer confidence when people see that they have jobs in a world where there's new economic regulations that create incentives for people to create jobs. Also consumer confidence. You say base internal into the economy. Next is linked to the heart. Businesses love the plan. Gut check this argument. Also look at it after Bates Baller. Fortune 500 companies, and specifically leaders like the CEO of FedEx and Caterpillar, both guess what heavily really energy intensive industries and really fuel intensive industries. Both the carbon taxes. They both advocate carbon tax win on the question of EPA regulation. Also, you have no link. You have no link. Also, we only affect electricity producers. No wide-scale generation across the economy. Also, you say that oil, your oil, high oil prices are collapsing due to this confidence status quo. Energy markets are ultimately finishing. Getting off of oil is what is the only thing that's going to be able to resolve these questions. We got to resolve these questions. Cool.
Because it makes prices and costs unpredictable. Advantage one, or wherever you flow those arguments.
First, you extend our Norway. First, extend the plan solves Norway proves this argument. Businesses don't find their way around it. It's only electricity producers means that the finite amount of people who have to be regulated as well. Second, you say that pollution is impossible to solve arguments. The EPA EPA regulations to be able to monitor all these things. Also, you say that also you make an argument about how other states are going to be able to do this. They just dump stuff on people's land. Arguments. First of all, we have an obligation to all Superfund sites. These are operate on native land now. That's all. Yeah, I'll say. Advantage two. Group other arguments about technology. One, they can see no technology being implemented in status quo. Import regulations and high cost means there's no way to be able to resolve this in a world where you don't transition to sustainable energy. Also, you say that planning capacity of the economy extend. These arguments are absolutely nonsensical. Australia disproves this argument, and the EU disproves this argument too. They have drastically reduced their carbon emissions, and Australia gets almost all of their power from wind in the status quo. We also extend the argument that price shocks are what cause resource conflict. It doesn't matter if you run out of oil.
Question?
Sure.
How does all of your neolib args interact with our biopower impact?
What's that?
How do all of your neolib terms interact with biopower impact?
Because it questions the way that we interact with power. Our argument is that
not all critique authors write the same thing. That's fine.
We're not those authors.
What authors?
This last argument that you're making on Advantage 2 about Australia and the EU disproving because Australia gets wind energy, what is that argument in response to? I just must have missed.
Oh, for sure. That's in the no incentive for growth or anything because it just gets passed down to consumers.
Okay.
That's disproved because it's really, really cost competitive to get like wind and solar energy in Australia.
is going to be the critique on top. Then it is going to be the app. Advantage 1, advantage 2. Then it is going to be the disadvantage. Then it is going to be the annual funding counterplan. Then it is going to be the other. Right.
Wait, so it's the set up a fund counter plan, then the collaboration plan?
Correct. So anyone who is not ready. First degree TE set permutation systems and competition of the guide to generate any office off of any reason why money is capable software dealer listen to the sales software cause your impact system which data any of the system way see we're going to argue the disadvantage of the term like identified impact also I want to go down to the where is this? Okay. They say the impacts of the the argument after they say all pits against each other. They say the impacts of the particular inevitable indicates that there's a brutal underlying cause to genocide which means there's no ability to solve for the ability to solve for the one I see also press by indicating epistemology. You don't have to do this, but you'll solve for them, you'll live if they generate any offense off of it, we can do that too. Okay. Case. Advantage 2. Using the technology transitions happening right now, we're going to use expert analysis as to why the technology is happening, but technology transitions happening within places like Germany being because they have been incentivizing this for longer. These companies are doing this, how these companies are aiming to interact with the global economy in case that the technology exists. Right now, if we can take claims on this, that's the only thing that nobody claims on this, and claims this says that inevitably is fossil fuel, inevitable fossil fuel decline means that inevitable fossil fuel decline means that I don't know better.
No.
Oh no.
Look, green tech development is inevitable in the status quo.
Yeah.
It is being solved internationally. All of this green technology, and cooperation, and science diplomacy, and H1Bs, all these things.
So the green technology that's developing, that's happening within the status quo is going to create a longer process for us to transition to greener energy, which won't cause the short-term impact of countries. Well, all of a sudden the oil price drops, and so countries are going to start buying up oil, which is the dirty development term that is completely conceded coming out of the MG. New technology solves your don't have to impact your energy. You say that the EU disproves and Australia cross-apply the arguments that say that we have enough oil reserves within both of these places to last until the technology is capable of coming from Germany. Yeah.
First of all, that incentive for growth also only exists in a world of status quo's progression line, not in a world of the pressure created by the 1AC to be able to move to green tech.
Yeah, the pressure to the 1AC means that the supply line changes longer.
Yeah. Also, on the advantage one, will you extend this argument about inevitable dumping because of plenary power?
Oh yeah. Okay, come back to advantage 1. I want to extend the argument about inevitable dumping because of
Plenary power.
Plenary power.
Means that the government controls reservations. So
Means the government controls reservations.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Dirty development term. Corresponding to the dirty development term, the United States controls the majority of the market, and controls a large share of the market for oil technology. The United States all of a sudden pulls out more signals. It's going to allow because the money happens. It indicates the oil price is going to decline. Around the world, getting to specific analysis of how this happens with Saudi Arabia because they want to make sure that they don't have any solid market because they would be able to maintain the economy within the short term. We said that this always would be even worse because it means the countries that currently are having the countries that currently are developing technology that goes hard to be able to develop industries and industry that pollute, but they don't have the technology to be able to do clean pollution, which means it increases this. In the short term, if there's any implication to be added, if there's any implication, any solvency left to the app starts it. Is that? No ability to win a link time, one more wax and we want the uniqueness debate. Using non-uniqueness, if we're giving you more specific analysis, our arguments are all cut from this morning when I woke up at 6 o'clock to cut politics up. This is econ, this side. Econ, please. We tell you the Morgan Stanley, so we have to do a good job of it. We tell you the Morgan Stanley Index, which is the most comprehensive study that came out, they came out, this was yesterday morning, they came out yesterday morning, which happens after the State of the Union, which shows multiple prices because it includes higher prices as well as business and perception of the economy, shows business confidence is increasing within the world, the stats of the world, within the world, all these stats of the shows that the State of the Union did trigger links to the disadvantage because businesses believe that they're going to be engaging in collaborative process or independent capture processes, which are the types of things they have been, which are the types of things that they have been preparing for, which means that this is how they plan on having their future future play out. The next argument you make is that EPA December prescribed regulations. Look, our arguments from Morgan Stanley, from the 88% Small Business Index, and the jobless rates, all from February. In addition, we're telling you the manufacturing is increasing the world status quo, which means people have already started to, which means the businesses have already started to invest in ways to increase the technology based on the predictions that they thought the State of the Union was going to make, which was not the 1AC. Otherwise, this wouldn't be solving for the world status quo to impact to 1AC. The joblessness rate is decreasing right now. We say we are going to be unique articulating the consumer confidence key of the economy because even if there's any propensity for your link terms, it only increases the economy in the world in the long term, not in the short term. We say that the short term drop in consumer confidence is going to trigger the double-dip recession, which turns the 1AC. Link term debate. First argument, you make trades off of cap and trade. First argument, cap and trade is the worst for development. Okay, cap and trade is not worse. First reason is because businesses perceive this happening within the way, businesses perceive that this was going to happen within a work money, which means they're prepared to do this. In addition, we articulate we say that cap and trade is bad for businesses. This is bad. This isn't true because they've already been in agreement to plan their options. It's not a matter of what is best for businesses, but businesses have planned on doing that. Plans on doing that would have already started to investing in, which is what's happening. It means you have to pull out their investments. It means they lose a lot of that capital. You said the plans change plans off of cap and trade. That's fine. Businesses are perceiving this happening now. Also, in addition, businesses are perceiving this because it's a different type of regulation than international modeling. Even if they're predicting something, they're not predicting this. No, this signals unilateral Obama action, which means businesses, even if the environment is irrelevant, businesses simply think that the world, they don't understand where to invest in post-world of the 1AC because they don't know what Obama's going to do next. It signals that Obama is being unilateral on this. It means that they're not going to reinvest in anything, which means that all of the investments that they already put in, they're going to lose that capital, decreases jobs, which decreases consumer confidence. In addition, this is also going to preclude investment in other industries, even green technology industries, because they don't know what's going to happen within the world of the future, and they don't know how this is going to interact with international regulations. That's the first argument I made. Next lecture. You said it decreases energy costs, increases consumer confidence, the jobs internal to consumer confidence. Right now, jobs are increasing in the manufacturing sector, which is unique to the Texas economy because we have a bunch of low-skilled workers, but not high-skilled workers that would have jobs in the world. We want to see even if you created a new sector, decreasing consumer confidence means people start to decreasing consumer confidence means people start to save money, which decreases the amount of capital businesses are able to generate. We say that this lack of investment stops economic activity. We isolate the consumer confidence to 27% of activity to get the loss of jobs. The percentage that's not going to be able to jobs in the future triggers a decline in spending, which means the businesses are incapable of maintaining capital. Next, your argument is that businesses love the plan. They don't love the plan because they can't predict it. The next argument you say is no link. What is this last argument?
High oil prices would collapse business confidence in the status quo. But we have 90-day oil reserves.
We have 90-day oil reserves. It's all back to this. There's only a risk that we're controlling the uniqueness debate, and the businesses don't perceive the plan, and so it triggers a decline. You have no impact coming off of your 1AC. You can see that Advantage 1 was inevitable. You can see the turn on Advantage 2. Counterclaim? First argument is the 1% transfers the link to the Advantage means the permutation is not beneficial. The next argument being solved is this is solved to by these and the counterclaim is capable of solving 100% of the goal for the person inside the Advantage because it is capable of doing funds that is predicated on economic activity. This I'll come back to the dispatch. Sorry, I need the text. Unquestionably, the argument that the international currency is impacting the United States currency, which means that the United States decline, because the United States costs decline other states, which means the United States is incapable of funding with funding post-world 1AC. For Advantage 1, it also indicates that the old majority development is going to be half the world 1AC. You can see this leads to a stage because declining investor relationships. Back to the counterplan.
Don't need it.
We picking it. Don't need it. Send the permutation, not competitive.
Cool. It is going to be the 1AC then the dissent. Everybody ready?
I'm not quite, sorry. Getting slow. Okay, yeah, I'm good now.
You are conceding several damning arguments on Advantage 1 and Advantage 2 that would indicate that the status quo seems to be solved in 100% of your half. We do not need to win a counterplan in a world where we are winning that the status quo solves all of your impacts. Also, you do not give a reason why Advantage 1 is capable of being solved in a world of your plan. You concede several, let's go to Advantage 1 right now. You concede an argument that you concede the last argument I make on advantage one that says the reservations are under clean area power, which means inevitably the government will take control and continue to dump on reservations. Because reservations are under federal government control, it means the government can just decide to do this. It doesn't matter how many times the government is capable of cleaning up the waste that it deposits there. It will continue to deposit, which means that although we feel for the first people and although we would like to give them their land back, we cannot stop this problem of dumping in a world of the 1AC. Advantage 2. We know that resources are finite, which means that it is a question of status quo progress versus a question of the 1AC. The time frame differential here is incredibly important. The U.S. is signaling pullout, which means that oil prices are declining internationally because of supply and demand. That is the dirty development argument that we make. In a world on the planet, the U.S. would be signaling that we would be switching away from fossil fuel technology. That is how you gain access for your solvency for Advantage 2. If you do not grant us this argument, they will probably not have access to an impact on Advantage 2. Additionally, this means that international because there are so many resources, if we stop using a lot of those resources, then the price of the rest of the resources goes down because less is being consumed. This is just basic supply and demand, which means that there's a which means that oil gets used enormously internationally. You can see that leads to dirty development. That this oil gets used particularly in places that have worse environmental regulations than the U.S. This means that our argument here is that the progression of the status quo is a linear progression. Your argument about the incentive for growth in Australia and EU are excellent for us because it indicates that there's an incentive in the status quo when you have growth and time for transition, but our markets are simply not ready for this transition immediately. This means that the 1AC is a premature full endorsement. This is exactly like in How I Met Your Mother with Ted Mosby said, "I love you" on the very first day and the very first time that he kissed Robin. It is like the U.S. just transitioning. We are transitioning too rapidly. The market will be able to compensate for this if we give the market time. It will develop. It will get there. You can see several arguments about why Germany, Japan, the Netherlands, international technology, cooperation, science diplomacy, H-1B visas, all of these things are solving your app, but you need to give them time to solve your app. Immediately endorsing them makes it impossible and derails that incentive and causes dirty development, which would magnify warming if you read one of those impacts. But it also means that it would magnify the use of resources. It would magnify fossil fuel use, which would cause resource wars on a faster time frame because we would be using them at a much lower price. Our market is simply not ready for your app, even if businesses think it's cool. But they don't. Business confidence. The 1AC is not reverse causal. Anything could trigger the impact on the 1AC, and anything could solve it practically. That is why the status quo solves your argument, which means that the 1AC is inevitably compensated for. But the plan looks like flip-flop play at flap. I was trying. Flip-flop flapjacks, which triggers the link to the dishead. This creates economic collapse that turns the case. Not only does the logic of extinction and the logic of disposability become inevitable in a world of unstable economy, but also we see that you do not have the money to develop green technology in a world of economic decline. If we win a 1% risk of a link to the dishead, if this is a little bit unprecedented and a little bit unpredictable for businesses, even if they like it, if it is something that they have not predicted into their business model, which you are making that argument all over the place about how this is unprecedented, then you are giving us the link to this, which means our disset independently outweighs your app. And the status quo solves it. So you know what? Thank you for playing this.
Alright, minute starts.
I'm going to go renegade counterplan. The case arguments, so advantage 1, wherever you've had that flowed. And then advantage 2. I'll be referencing the actual impacts on the Advantage One property that I'm not simply. So if you have that flow of insolvency thing, then expect to go there next after deal insolvency, and then business confidence. Going cool? Several reasons why you're going to be voting for Will and I. The first is going to be the permutation on a reg neg. Oops, swamps all the links to your disstat. You don't kick out of this. All you say is not going for. That's not a response to why the permutation swamps, which is going to be getting us out of your business confidence. But also, you are conceding that the only terminal impact to business confidence is one of extinction. Too bad we control the logic of how extinction is created. You jettison your ability to control this actual internal link when you jettison all your critical ground, which means we are going to be juking the actual only impact that matters, and that is an issue of genocide. But last and foremost, we tell you, you are going to be buying our specific analysis on industries when it comes to the issue of business confidence. There's not enough. They themselves admitted that only linear, which means our linear uniqueness takeout, will be enough. Go to the reg neg. Going forward, they don't make any arguments as why it's untested why it's only tested competition where we can't advocate, which means we get full access to the swamp and solve through the leagues. This literally Will's first argument that the collaboration between the two would solve for all the regulation and uncertainty that you yourself talk about. Probably should have clicked out much cleaner than that, which is really problematic because now that is your only offense is the net benefit. That is really problematic, especially when you're controlling the internal link to extinction. Anything else, Will? In particular? Yeah. Okay.
The only way to check conditional asks, you don't ask.
Yeah, no one asks. Like, so we get to advocate for it now. That's really problematic. Anyway, go ahead. Go to solve. The only argument on the first advantage why they don't solve is because they have plenary power, which means the state will just continue. One, there's no warrant as to why the state would continue. Secondly, just probably solve for in a world of fiat. They make no arguments against this. The only argument we need is, one, you can see that it's private companies that are doing this right now in the status quo, which means the government's probably not related. But secondly, you can extend from the PMC that this is already happening right now. There's already a mass amount. They do not give you a uniqueness differential of how it would only increase, which is only a risk of solving for this. It's also
I think that any breadth of argument, other than we have an obligation to clean, would be a brand new extension of any argument in Advantage 1, particularly this conceded argument. And I forgot the other argument that you made. So
Sure.
that was also.
Yeah, my response to the MG is, yeah, sure. My response to the MG is Superfund sites are on native land, and plan says we clean up Superfund sites, which means we clean up Joe, extension.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
in a
literally
very
the extension of, like, will it also explicitly extends the PMC. I should probably be able to lever, like, if it's an issue of drops, I should probably be able to lever drop specific arguments to PMC when it comes to comparative analysis. Under consideration. When they conceded that the violence against these people is already occurring in the status quo, there's only a risk of solvency for at least for the pollution that is occurring right now, which means we're the ones controlling the internal impact. Jump down to the third impact of genocide. We tell you that one, this is the most impact that you should be voting because it's the worst form of mass communal death. Their business dissent is only as opposed to internal link. So it's too bad we control the idea, the logic of extinction from the beginning, and the logic of genocide is the otherization of people, which means they make no arguments why the market stops the otherization of people. Only a world where we increase superfunds for these individuals and actually end the pollution that is destroying their lives and continue the respect of local traditions to be de-otherize them. That is the logic of genocide. They've conceded, and then conceded that genocide leads to extinction. That is the only impact that they try to go for is a turn on this, which is their BizCon disco. We are winning the actual internal link of what causes people to be otherized in the first place, which is the internal link to genocide, and therefore extinction, because the genocide and the logic of genocide is the logic of extinction. Go to Advantage 2 now. They go hard for the market solving now. Too bad they go hard for the market solving now internationally. Too bad from the PMC on, we have will extend arguments that say it does not matter how internationally is doing in a world of continued trade disputes and why the United States is key. First, extend the argument the United States is absolutely key because we are 25% of the energy market. Also, we have the most diverse market, which means U.S. leadership on this is key. But also extend that trade disputes mean that international developments do not matter, which means that the tech will not get to. So they say we have enough oil and time. We tell you that one, every single day which you do not act, it is not only act of violence against First Peoples, but also means that a continued possibility of conflict over the three particular areas that we isolate. The fact that we isolate multiple areas means that every single day we wait for German imports to get over to us is a day that is closer to extinction, closer to mass violence, which means it's not a response. They put what? Sweet. Which means it is not a response as they put all their eggs on the market solving now. That is really problematic when you kick the only counterpoint that probably could have gotten you out of this. The last argument they say here, the last argument that they really make hay out of in the LOR is that we increase oil consumption because we decrease the prices. They're already conceding that the oil consumption is up 150% since the 1990s. There's no unique differential as far as who would be buying more oil. You're probably conceding that oil is already being bought at mass levels right now.
which means we solve for an extinction level event, which means there's two scenarios in which we are solving for extinction, not the logic, but also the occurrence thereof. Their BISCON is at best an internally term. What's up?
Even if they win a marginal increase in oil use, they still concede that we decrease coal emissions.
Yeah. Furthermore, Furthermore, they're
Sure.
conceding we are not only. It doesn't matter in a world where we increase the pivot up towards renewables, which is enough to solve back for the turning away because it becomes immensely cheaper.
Water.
What's up?
I think that any cross-application of cross-X would have needed then the MG had to brief on this argument. I'm
This
sure it's under consideration.
This is literally just extending
What
PMC
argument are you
solvency
talking
for
about?
renewables.
Sure,
Right.
I guess I think that you have to extend arguments in the 2AC to get them in the 2AR. I'm
What
sure it's
argument are you talking about?
Never mind.
Cool. Sweet. Next, go into BISCON. Really problematic when they say that our simply arguments are generic. That is not true. Our arguments are specific to regulation. You can extend that right now in the status quo. They're already discussing the possibility of these not only since the 1970s with CO2 regulations, but also in particular the State of the Union, which means all of your arguments about how our market is increasing now are existing in a world where regulations are already existing now. Which means it probably means your own dissent story is not believable. The REU analysis probably proves it's not true. But the next argument is going to be that there is therefore a net increase in economic activity in a world where we increase access to jobs is something they can see, which means jobs utilities internally to the consumer confidence. The consumer needs jobs to actually consume, which means we are the fast internal link. They isolate consumer confidence as the internal link to the economy. That is too bad because we've isolated jobs as the internal link to consumer confidence. They make no arguments why we don't increase jobs when we increase the investment in this technology, which means turn the entirety of this. It doesn't matter because we already control the fastest internal link.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Also, looking snazzy video. Also, I agree.
The drop that says that the drop is the
Go outside.
Good.